I think that people get it wrong with the idea that sales are everything. That's the problem, because they don't focus on the other things, and then they don't pay their insurance correctly, they don't pay their taxes correctly, they don't have anyone answering the phone. Like, there's so many problems because they don't
Oh
invest in
yeah.
those other things.
We've talked
So
about this before. So we've talked about I call them roofing clubs. Is like these companies that it's an owner who's really just the club leader, who has then a bunch of sales reps that are taking
yeah,
everything from cradle to grave, that are functionally running their own businesses.
that's right.
Everyone's tracking their own stuff. Everyone's completely independent. When it goes to production, they're managing production. They're also generating their own leads because they're door knocking and or doing others, buying their own mailers and stuff like that. So the owner is not actually doing any marketing, any management of the numbers of the business. And I mean, in my mind, that's not a business. Like, that's a club. If that's how
Yeah,
you're running
it's
your business.
correct. It's not saleable asset at all. Anyone can just break off and start their own business, and it's fine. Like, if people want to make income that way, I have no problem them having a job, but it's not a real business whenever you have that structure most of the time.
Yeah. So if you're does that work? So, well, I mean, I guess let's talk about the pros and cons. It's not necessarily that's a terrible model. It's
No.
like what you're saying. It's, are you trying to build an asset with value, so like a business asset that can be possibly sold later on? And I think this is, I mean, I don't know if you have direct contact, but I've had direct contact with several and gotten to know several different roofing businesses that have been purchased by private equity, that have sold their business, successfully sold their business, which is what a lot of roofers would like to do. They'd like to build something valuable enough to sell it and walk
Mhm.
away from it. So I've seen the inside of some of these businesses, and they're exactly what you're saying. None of them are doing this cradle to grave roofing club model. They're all, with their sales reps, do one thing and one thing only, and they work
Yep.
the leads. And those leads are mostly coming from the marketing efforts of the overall company. So the company is generating, and they might still do some door knocking, if they have extra time, but it's primarily leads coming through marketing of the business that are then getting funneled down into the specific sales reps, who are then selling it, and then it's being passed off to production managers, to inside sales reps, to the billing department, like having that breakdown of responsibilities, which also makes it a lot less likely, or it just doesn't open up for that risk of one of your sales reps as much, at least, going off and just starting their own thing because they're functionally running their own thing already.
Yep.
So yeah, interesting. So, well, let's wrap this up with this. So, in your mind, we just talked trash about this whole model. Like, what model do you feel like most companies should be using when it comes to paying their sales reps?
I think you need to know your numbers first, and
Well, let's assume that you don't really know that maybe
then
you kind of know your numbers.
no, you got to know it, because okay, let's just say this: you need to know your average job size, and you need to know your average gross profit per job. If you don't know that, then it's just going to be literally impossible for you to actually have any kind of intelligent decision to pay sales reps. If you're only making $2,500 a roof, or you don't know that you're only making $2,500 a roof, then it's just a recipe for disaster. You'll feel like you're making money because your revenue's coming in, but then you won't be able to pay your bills within 6 months, 3 months, whatever the time is. If you have a storm or whatever it is, I think that's just it. You have to know your numbers first. I've said
Okay.
this again.
So you got to know your numbers
Know
no
your
matter
numbers
what.
first. Yep.
So then what is the model there? How do you pay this? How do you pay the
What
sales
what I do is I pay 10% of revenue, and the only way I'm able to do that is because we have systems in place that protect the gross profit on every job.
Hmm.
So the estimates are getting written. So they're not having to write estimates.
Some of those
They're not
systems
having.
are in Proline.
They're all in. Everything's in Proline, because so very few people are involved, but there are very complicated systems involved too, that just help over and over and over again to make that sales rep's life way easier. Like they don't have to go collect physical checks unless the customer really wants it. Like accounting's taking care of all that. Tisha's like there's so many things
Just focused on that
yeah,
piece.
we're making that sales rep. You get 10% of the revenue. These are your list of things you need to do. It is technically cradle to grave. However, we're taking care, like the team is taking care of a lot of that work for each sales rep.
Yeah. So a flat percentage on revenue, which is honestly a much simpler approach anyway.
Yep.
Yeah. And
Makes it
just
easy
like
for
it makes it
accounting,
easy
and
for everybody.
they get
to do
excited
it.
because and like also this, let's say this. If they do upsells in the they're less driven by upselling and forcing different upsells on a customer.